And it takes a year just to qualify. Today, 42 drivers have got an invitation to Ohio. We're going to find out who is the best of the best. We are just outside Columbus, Ohio at historic National Trail Raceway, kind of running between the raindrops this weekend, but we're here to cover the 16th annual Federal-Mogul All-Stars race. Hi everybody, I'm Alan Reinhart. Once a year, Federal-Mogul brings together the best of the best from NHRA's 7 geographic divisions. That's the folks standing behind me here. You have to earn your way into this race, and then they run it off for a total purse of $100,000, and that includes individual awards as well as a team award for whichever division accumulates the most points overall. Now you get 100 points around for each round you win, all the way from Super Street up to the Federal-Mogul Dragster ranks, and these guys are serious about this. It's a competition they work all year just to get in, and today they're going to run it off, and we're going to find out just who is the best of the best. And speaking of Federal-Mogul, they made a big announcement this morning, and my partner Jason Baffrey has got all the details about that.
Federal-Mogul has been the major sponsor of the NHRA Sportsman Series since 1997. And here this weekend, in conjunction with the Federal-Mogul All-Stars, they revealed their plan for the future. Joining me now is Jay Burkhart, Vice President of Marketing for Federal-Mogul. Tell us what you got going.
Well, Jason, we're excited to announce a new 3-year commitment to the Federal-Mogul Drag Racing Series, starting with the 2001 series. In addition to that, we'll be enhancing the purses for both the national and the divisional events, and with increases of about 50%, bringing the prize money over $550,000. And we'll be enhancing the Steel Power Low Qualifier program with a separate purse worth another 170 grand. So altogether, it's about $750,000 in prize money and 3 more fun years of Federal-Mogul Drag Series.
Alan, the future looks great for Federal-Mogul Sportsman Racing.
Here's the first pair, round 2 of Super Street, already on the racetrack. You see Dwight Limbaugh get a little bit loose, and Tim Law, believe it or not, breaks out. He is all by himself down on the racetrack, but he does run 1085, and he'll get the L. Dwight Limbaugh, even with being loose and having to shut off in the middle of the race course, will get the win here in this second round of Super Street. Wow.
What a heartbreak way of ending that one.
Undoubtedly. Jag Coughlin Sr. is joining us in the booth as a color commentator this week. You have raced in about every class of racing, from taking your street car out to all the way up to Top Fuel.
I have. I started right at Super Street, and that's where we're starting right here. I think this is just fantastic. What a way to start.
Here's the second pair of Super Streeters. That's Rudy Matthews on the far side. He is the blocker, last year's champion. Near lane is Dan Dittmer in that beautiful old Ford Falcon. Dittmer falls back, but Rudy Matthews is not going to make the mistake of blocking. He goes back to the final round. 11:27 the winning time, 105 miles an hour. Rudy Matthews, as a matter of fact, is one of the strongest in the field, and earlier Jason Baffrey stopped by the pits to talk with him.
If you look back through the Federal-Mogul All-Stars record books, the name Rudy Matthews will really jump out at you. He's won the Super Street category 3 out of the last 4 years. And along with winning the individual titles, he's helped bring home the team championship to Division 3 from right here in the Ohio area. Rudy, that's got to be a great feeling for you.
It really is. There's a lot of prestige that goes along with this race. Federal-Mogul puts up a lot of money for the racers, and the luckiest guys go home with the cash.
Alan, one thing's for sure, with Rudy on the team, Division 3's chances look real good again this year.
Jason, if I was putting together a team, I think I'd make Rudy the captain. We'll be back with Super Gas semifinals, the Federal-Mogul All-Stars, right after this. Welcome back to Columbus, Ohio, in the Federal-Mogul All-Stars race. Jim Smulligan, Steve Cohen. That's Steve Cohen in the Roadster. Super Gas, one step above Super Street, the entry-level category. This is kind of where you go next if you're getting your feet wet.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And we've known Steve and his wife for many years. What a great family they are. Everybody's excited. Oh, my gosh.
Red light start for Jim Smulligan by 1/1000th of a second. He goes,
the adrenaline in Steve Cohen just went way down at that point.
Cohen was 4:03 on the tree. He was ready, and a 9:87 elapsed time would normally be a breakout, but after the red light, the breakout doesn't count. At that point, the race is over. Cohen's basically got a freebie, and As a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, one of your kids won his first world championship in this super gas class.
That's right, Jaggy did. That was the first time. He was a world champion in super gas. That was the first time. It was a wonderful, wonderful year.
This is the other semifinal. It's Rod Horner and it's Jimmy Lewis.
Boy, this ought to be an absolute fabulous race. What two good racers could you ever have?
Jimmy Lewis on the far side of the racetrack has always made racing a family affair.
For my money, Supergas is one of the toughest categories in NHRA competition. Just about every driver is 400 and 990 on every pass, which makes it all the more impressive that Jimmy Lewis has won the Federal-Mogul All-Stars the last 2 years in a row. And Jimmy, you haven't done it alone. You've had some help.
Absolutely. We do it as a family. Phyllis, myself, my dog Reba. We all go on the road. We do it. We work hard. We do it as a family. We enjoy what we're doing, and we're here to get some of Federal-Mogul's money.
Now, Alan, they're not earning points this weekend. They come in as a blocker, but Jimmy Lewis is definitely going to be a factor in competition.
We saw Rod Horner get loose, and Jimmy Lewis takes the win. 10 seconds flat, 138 miles an hour. Jimmy Lewis, the blocker for Division 4. He's not earning points, but he is stopping the other teams.
He definitely is doing that. He's getting rid of some people that are creating the points.
So that'll set up our finals in both Super Street and Super Gas. And it looks like next up is going to be Stock Eliminator. Is on the starting line. Edmund Richardson and Jeff Heffler get set to go at it. Heffler, another one of those blockers. He won it last year, so he gets to come back and make up the 8th car in the field. And we'll see first pair of stockers after we hear a couple of words from our sponsors. Don't go away. Welcome back to Columbus, Ohio. As we get set for stock, we're going to check in with Jason. He's going to talk about a guy who's on a hot streak.
The last couple of months have been very good for Peter Biondo. He won a national event, won a divisional event, has been to 2 final rounds in big money bracket races, one of which earned him a $50,000 payday. Peter, you've really picked up some momentum coming into the Federal-Mogul All-Stars.
Yeah, I sure did, and I'm hoping it rolls over into this race because this is one I've been shooting for a while. If we're going to give it our best, it's a tough field. And if we don't do good, we have a good time at this anyway. We have my girlfriend that comes and races with me, and we also have my brother and his family. So win or lose, we have a great time. We're going to give it our best.
Now, his brother Sal won the Superstock category in 1995. Peter's looking for his first All-Star win this weekend.
Unfortunately for Pete Biondo, he went red in round 1 to Edmund Richardson. And here we see Edmund Richardson near lane. Jeff Heffler far side in that wheel-standing Pontiac. Edmund still making points for his home Division 2. Jeff Heffler, the blocker, trying to stop him.
Boy, those reaction times were so close.
And on a double breakout affair, Jeff Heffler sends Edmund packing. Boy, in an all-star race, there's no such thing as an easy draw, but I don't want to look over at any time and see Edmund in the other lane.
Oh, no. This has got to be the greatest sportsman racers in the world are all here today, you know, in Columbus, Ohio. I mean, it's just fabulous to have this race here.
We'll take another look at this one. As you mentioned, Jag, almost identical on the tree in handicap-style racing. Slower car gets the head start, and then Heffler and the Firebird tries to run him down and take us to the stripe. This is so close. Without electronics, I'm not sure you could pick a winner. You see Edmund playing the brake game.
Oh.
Both drivers, again, were under the index. In that case, closer wins, and closer this time was Heffler. Here's the other side. Darren Grossi, the California runner, in that 1970 Plymouth Barracuda. Beautiful 440 six-pack car, taking on Tom Russell's C Stocker. The odds makers in National Dragster didn't give Russell much of a chance here. He took out Kevin Helms in the opening round, and he's a man on a mission.
Oh, I tell you what, and they're leaving almost exactly the same time. I mean, with
just 2,000 separated these two at the starting line. You play the finish line game, and Russell wins it. 1085, 123 miles an hour in that C Stocker. That's a late model, fuel-injected, 5-speed Pontiac. Just a sweetheart of a stock eliminator car. Darren Grossi, it's going to be a long trip back to California.
5,000ths of a second between those two cars at the finish line.
They are side by side just about all the way down. There were only a few hundredths in the handicap head start difference. And you can see a whole trip. You're looking over at your opponent. You're looking back and forth, closing in on that finish line stripe. Jag mentioned it was 5,000. That's what 5,000 looks like at the stripe. Almost a dead heat. getting ready for Superstock. And checking in on one of our Superstock competitors, here's Jason.
The DeFrank family has ruled Superstock over the past several years. Jimmy DeFrank is the defending Federal-Mogul Superstock champion, but it's his younger brother Tony who's been heating things up in the year 2000. He already has a national event win, a divisional win, and he's the Division 7 representative for the Federal-Mogul All-Stars. And Tony, it'd be great for you to pick up a win here and add that to the family resume.
Yeah, that'd be great for us to do. You know, the class here in Superstock is very tough. Got drivers like Dan Fletcher and Lincoln Moorhead. And pretty much the whole field is a tough field for us to race against. But if we get some luck in Division 7, we can pick up a victory for him, and that'd be great.
And Alan, just so you know, Big Brother is watching.
Well, Jace, Big Brother won't be happy with him because a round 1 red light put Tony DeFrank out of competition. Mike Crutchfield and Brian Butler on the starting line right now. Crutchfield in that B Supercar. Butler in the Beretta. Now, this is a bigger handicap, about a second head start. Concentration is at a premium here, Jake.
Oh, it's unbelievable because you can almost see the other car as it goes by the tree before you leave.
How much bracket racing did you do in your career?
Oh, I didn't do a whole lot, but I did some. But I think my sons were definitely better at it than I was. That's for sure.
Jake's sons, like so many, if you're not familiar, went through the Federal-Mogul Sportsman ranks. As a matter of fact, all 4 competed in the All-Star race at one time or another, and all 4 are now running in the Winston Drag Racing Series in Pro Stock and Pro Stock Truck. Brian Butler gets the win here. He was a little better on the Christmas tree. There were 0.02 of a second separating the cars at the stripe on a double breakout affair. Brian Butler gets the win. Jake, take us through this replay.
Oh, I would say it's another Division 3 car that's going out through there, but the Butler family, a great group. All the daughter and the kids all come together and watch this race. Look at this, right at the end.
That close.
Oh, unbelievable.
Other semifinal in Superstock will feature Dan Fletcher, that's the Summit Racing Valvoline car, and Dave Bogner out of Bogner Automotive in Nebraska. He represents Division 5. Fletch is the blocker. Won this thing a year ago and is trying to help his home team, Division 1, by stopping the other guys.
Dave would definitely like to win this race right here in Columbus at the Pontiac Summit race. He would love to do that, and here he goes.
In this case, Dave will leave first. About 0.33 of a second later, the green light comes on in Dan Fletcher's lane. The Camaro is going to try to run down that little Dodge Daytona at the top end. We've already got one finalist in Superstock, and right now we're about to find out who the other finalist will be. Both drivers clean and green, and Bogner looks like having problems because Fletcher is already past him. You'll see Dan get out of the throttle early. Don't want to take any chance on breaking out when you know your opponent is broken. And for the second consecutive year, Dan Fletcher will take his father Tom's '69 Camaro into the final round at the Federal-Mogul All-Stars. We'll be back to Columbus, Ohio and National Trail Raceway with more Federal-Mogul All-Stars action next.
We're back with more Federal-Mogul All-Stars competition. You can't get a bigger All-Star than the #1 on the side of Sheldon Gecker's famous King Kong livery. Now, he's the defending Federal-Mogul Super Gas champion, but this weekend in All-Stars competition, he represents Division 5 in Super Comp. And Sheldon, you've never won this thing. This would be a good weekend to do it.
Now, this is a pretty tough deal to get in because it's judged by how you do in your division, and you have to race guys in all the divisions and your division, so it's kind of like a spy versus spy type deal. Everybody knows your driving habits. So with the help of Hughes Performance and Mopar Performance, we think we can do a pretty good job here.
Alan, as you know, it doesn't matter which car Sheldon's driving, he's always competitive.
Jason, you have to be tough to finish in the top 10 nationally in both classes. As you mentioned, he was the world champ in Super Gas, and at #7 on the scoop of his dragster means he was in the top 10 also in Super Comp. Here's Terry Cochran and Jim Hopper. Hopper trying to make some points for that West Coast team. And Terry Cochran out of Tyler, Texas, the Division 4 runner. This, Jake Coughlin, could be the toughest category in drag racing. The cars are so similar, the technology that's involved in these things, it really is a driver's race.
It definitely is. I mean, the secret of success here, obviously, is at the starting line is to have a 410 or better light. That's just almost a must, and then to run right on 890.
Keep in mind the all-star race. These guys have spent a year just trying to qualify to be here. You don't want to go home from Columbus empty-handed. Great shot over the shoulder at Jim Hopper as he makes the last check of the gauges before he rolls into the beams. This is a heads-up category. 890 is the index. The cars will be side by side for the entire quarter-mile trip.
Boy, they both left the line almost at the same time. 431, 439.
Hopper drives by at the top, but he goes too quick. You can't run under that 890 standard. 888 is a loser. 891 for Terry Cochran. He is your winner. He'll go into the final round of the Federal Mogul All-Star.
Is he excited?
As you mentioned, only 8 thousandths at the beginning of the racetrack. Now you see Hopper fall back a little bit with the throttle stop, uses the big mile an hour, and he'll just take the stripe by too much as they close in on the finish line. Most of the time, guys tell me they try to tighten it up to within about 6 inches. You don't want to go farther than 6 inches in front. So talk about driving both ends of the racetrack. From that shot, you can really see. You keep looking over, checking, seeing where your opponent is on the racetrack as you head on down.
And the point is, when you get down there, the 6 thousandths is probably only about 6 or 7 inches. I mean, that's really close to 170 miles an hour.
There's Sheldon Gecker, who we just heard from with Jason in the pits earlier on. That is a neat car. It is a Hemi-powered, Yancer-built rear-engine dragster. Sheldon, who gets help from Mopar Performance and Hughes Converters, and he's taking on John Bruzzo, the runner out of Oceanside, New York. Bruzzo, who came that close to the Federal Mogul Championship last year, wound up in the number 2 spot after a very tight points battle. Right over the shoulder of John Bruzzo as he brings the car up against the converter. And Bruzzo was almost perfect on the starting line. And Bruzzo breaks out by 6 thousandths of a second. There's Crystal as Sheldon Gecker goes into the final round. 892, 160 miles an hour. We'll be back with more from the Federal Mogul All-Stars race at National Trail Raceway in Columbus, Ohio, right after this.
Welcome back to Federal Mogul All-Stars competition from Columbus, Ohio. As we mentioned a little earlier in the show, drivers earn points to get to the All-Stars over the past year. Now, Ed Bennett has done that driving 2 different cars. He started out last year driving a AA altered 63 Corvette, then made the switch to this A dragster. Did it make it difficult on you driving 2 different cars to get here?
Yeah, it was pretty difficult. You know, last year, 106-inch wheelbase door slammer car with a blower motor, and all we had to do was change a pulley on the blower to find some more horsepower to run faster. Then made the switch to a 265-inch dragster with a normally aspirated 500-inch Steve Schmidt Pro Stock motor and a Liberty Trans, so things are a little bit more critical over here. Tuning is a little bit harder to try and find the horsepower to run fast.
Alan, this is Ed's first All-Stars appearance. He's still looking for his first national event win. He won 3 divisionals last year, back to back to back, but that was in the AA altered car.
Jason, if he could win this Federal Mogul All-Stars, that would be a big first win in the dragster. There's a good shot of the reigning Federal Mogul champ. This is Andy Manna in the Trans Am out of California, and Larry Pritchett will be his opponent. He drives a super modified car. Andy Manna, I just love this car. He has got a new car. He's got a street roadster that he races from time to time, but every time he gets in a little bit of a slump, he brings Old Faithful out of retirement, gets in that car, and comes back and crushes him.
Oh, I tell you, Andy Manna's just one wonderful racer. When Jaggy was second in the world year before last, Andy was the one who beat him, and he's just a great racer.
Andy Manna also came in last year, won this Federal Mogul All-Stars race, and then came back on Sunday and won the Pontiac Excitement Nationals. That's no easy draw. That number 3 on Larry Pritchett's window means he finished 3rd in the national standings. And again, in an All-Stars race, there are no ducks. Everybody here is tough.
They're all tough. They are all tough.
The way I figured, your margin for error here is probably 100th of a second. If you make 100th of a mistake, the other guy's going to take you out. Wow. Andy Manna was 5'11" on the reaction timer, and he left second. Manna's car made a little wiggle out in the middle there, and Pritchett drives on by. 824 to the win to Andy's losing 856. Now, keep in mind, in Competition Eliminator, it's a handicap start, but there is no breakout. This is a very highly technically refined category. Think of it almost as junior pro stock. You can run your car out the back door without fear of a breakout, but you've got to be on your game on the start line.
That's right.
There's Ed Bennett that Jason talked to just moments ago in that A dragster. That is the closest thing you can get to a pro stock car wearing a dragster's clothing. Rocket ship of a race car.
Oh, And the one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to go too far under, because you don't want to go more than 5 under your index, or you have to run it faster in the final. In this particular case, because one of these two is going into the final.
That's where the CIC would come into effect. If you run better than half a second under, they adjust the index for the next round. Dave Northrup, that ISC racer tape car, part of that wacky Northrup family from up in Pennsylvania. And in that family, just like in your family, Jake, everybody races.
I'll tell you what, the sportsman category of racing is definitely a family organization. We've enjoyed it from day one until today.
Northrup is going to leave first by a bunch, 1 7/10 of a second, and then Ed Bennett in that 200-mile-an-hour A dragster is going to try to run him down. Watch this. If they're both green, it should be fun.
And they are. Wow.
Bennett with a ton of ground to make up, and he's not going to do it. 8:40 for the win at 158. We'll be back with the Federal-Mogul Dragsters and Funny Cars. It's semifinals of the All-Stars race from Columbus. Don't go away.
Welcome back to Columbus, Ohio, and the Federal-Mogul All-Stars. Frank Manzo has won just about everything there is to win in Federal-Mogul Funny Car, including the All-Stars competitions in 1995, 97, and 98, but it still means a lot to him. He's qualified #1 here this weekend with a 573. Then he came out in round #1, ran a 563 on a bye run. There was no blocker that showed up for Funny Car. But now, you guys, John Glade and the crew, you're going to try to make this thing go even quicker.
Yeah, that's what we race for, to go as fast as we can here. And, you know, we think we can go a little quicker here. The track's going to be pretty good, Columbus, and the weather's a little iffy. I thought it would clear up, and we have some beautiful weather this afternoon, but it's getting a little cloudy, and we're going to train some stuff and, you know, change. And we have a lot of respect for Tony Bartone. He went 72. He's capable of going 62 or even a 59. So, you know, we just can't lay back, and Tony will beat us, and, you know, it'll be over with. So we're going to try something and try and go a little faster and see what happens.
Alan, he mentioned Tony Bartone. Let's take a look at some of the other highlights from round #1.
Thanks, Jason. Frank may have had the dominant car there in the opening round, but it's not exactly lonely at the top. Let's take one more quick look back at round #1, where Pat Austin in the Pro-Max machine laid off a 566. Manzo still has the quicker car, but Austin's only a couple of ticks behind. The way the ladder race out, they could race each other in the final round. Manzo right now is not worried about Austin, though. He's got to be worried about Tony Bartone. These cars last year finished #1 and #2 in the points. Bartone came up 1 round short of dethroning 5-time champ Frank Manzo.
Like we said in the first round, Manzo picked up quite a bit over his qualifying times. I mean, just something. Whatever they did was just a perfect move.
There was a lot of improvement in all the cars in that opening round. Bartone, interestingly enough, we talked about the fact that Austin and Manzo could race in the final. Bartone down in Texas at the end of last season, the national event, if he won the race, he'd be the champ. He went to the final round and lost to Pat Austin by about 1.5 feet. So Austin actually kept the championship, the #1 on the side of Frank Manzo's car. Don't think Tony wouldn't like a little revenge on both of them here this week.
Well, I think Bartone's got such a great crew chief with this Steve Boggs, and he just does a great job. And I used to race with Grant Stoms that works with them.
That's going back a few years.
Wow.
Manzo with problems. You can see smoke out of his car, and Tony Bartone at 573, 251 miles an hour, takes down the champ. Hey, Tony, there's a turnoff there. They've got a little extended shutdown here at National Trail Raceway. They open the back gate, and if you can't get your car stopped in time, you literally go across Refugee Road and then out into the farmer's field out there. But Tony's fine. Car's still upright. You see Manzo moving around here. You see the little pup right there. Bang! The day's over for the Kendall driver and the Quaker State car. Into the final.
I was just getting ready to say that Tony made a perfect run, and then I saw him go across the road back there, and I thought, geez, I better wait for just a second.
That's what Tony does here. You know,
go. What a beautiful run. What an absolute beautiful run.
He sees Manzo fall back, and he's probably in there going, woohoo, hey, I beat Frank, hey, this is great, and forgot to put the brakes on. Here's our other semifinal. Before we watch this race, let's check in with Tony. He's at the end of the racetrack.
Well, Tony Bartone just came back from across the county road out here. You took a little bit of a ride, but you don't care. You won, and you took out Manzo.
Well, it was a desperately needed win for the green car here, Team Quaker State with Roger Dean Chevrolet, and we're happy to be able to go to the next round. And, you know, I always wanted to drive a funny car on a public road, but somehow I had something a little bit different in mind.
73 going to be enough for the final?
Well, we'll see. Maybe the racetrack changed a little. We shook the tires a little bit. We'll have to go back and look at our computer and tune up and see what we can do for the next lap.
Hey, Tony, why don't you go back and look in the closet and see if you can find a hat for the final. Pat Austin, the Pro Max car, and Mark White for Ride and Decal. Mark White, a great story. Longtime crew chief, always wanted to drive. George Etterman gave him the chance, and he has made the most of it in a very tough Division III arena.
I love to hear them. Listen to those motors. It's just fabulous the way they bring them up and then leave.
And Mark White takes out Pat Austin. 5.70, 253 for Mark. Austin got in trouble, ends up with a 582 at 250 miles per. And boy, I don't think that's the way the odds makers in Vegas would have played this one out.
No, that's for sure. But I'll tell you what, Mark White did a really, really great job.
It looked like, and we even said at the top, that Manzo and Austin appeared to have the dominant cars, and now after the semis, they're both going to be just watching the final.
Right.
Halfway there. Mark White already a 1/10 of a second out in front of Austin, and Austin is not going to catch him. Semifinals now for the Federal-Mogul Dragsters in the Federal-Mogul All-Stars, but first, let's check in with Mark White. Jason has corralled him at the end of the racetrack.
I think a lot of people expected a Frank Manzo, Pat Austin final, but that's not going to be the case. Mark White, you just took out Austin. You're going to the final to take on Tony Bartone.
It's a miracle we're even here. We broke a motor warming this thing up, and we had everybody in the pits helping us to put this thing back together. We just finished.
How close was it?
I was getting dressed as we were towing it to the starting line.
Any problems on this run? You going to be able to make it back for the final?
I'll be back. I don't care if they run it in 5 minutes.
He's ready, Alan.
He sounds ready. Sean Bowen and Jay Meyer. Jake Coughlin, how many times have we seen that in the sportsman ranks? Even if you've got to race the guy next round, if somebody's having a problem, all you have to do is yell and you've got more help than you need.
That's what sportsmen are all about. I mean, that's where this racing came from. I mean, they just help each other. It's just like you come to the races, one brings the hot dogs, one brings the buns, and we have a party.
Which was I supposed to bring?
Both.
I'll have them for you tomorrow. There's Jay Meyer, the runner out of Texas. That is an ex-Jay Payne car. First rate, top-notch equipment. Jay Meyer is having a career year. He whooped them all down in Gainesville. He's also won, I believe, 3 points races already on the Federal-Mogul drag racing circuit. He has just been all but unstoppable down in Division 4, and he's going to take on Sean Bowen. This is one of those injected nitro-burning cars. They leave the starting line from a dead idle as opposed to the alcohol cars, which you say you just like the sound of.
Oh, yeah.
Injected nitro cars are a little unpredictable.
Right, and the interesting thing about Sean is the fact that he used to run a blown alcohol car, and now he's changed over to the nitro, so we'll see how this works.
Jay Meyer got off the starting line first and never looked back. 5:59 at 253 miles an hour to Sean Bowen slowing 5:65 at 253. And for Jay Meyer right now, he has run 5.60, 5.60. That was yesterday in qualifying. 5:58 in the first round, 5:59 here. That might be the most consistent car on the property, and he still had some tire shake.
And I'll tell you, he had a better light. He had a lot better light. I think that's really was an excellent run.
At the half-track mark, Meyer was ahead by almost a 1/10, just like we saw in that funny car run. And at the finish line, one more time, daylighted it. Well, close.
Both of those cars were extremely clean.
See Meyer's car moving around a little bit. The blown alcohol cars have a tendency to do that. With a 3-speed transmission, you've got 2 gear changes that really upset the car just a touch. With an injected nitro car, high gear only, it's a smoother application of power, and they usually aren't quite as darty.
And if you happen to have just a tad too much clutch in those alcohol cars, they'll strike the tire as they shift them.
This is the other semifinal. We already know Jay Meyer is waiting in the final round. That is Steve Federlin, the Impatience team, and that is Godzilla in the Federal-Mogul Dragster ranks. Rick Santos and the Oakwood Homes team. Let's go down to the finish line quickly. Hold that thought, Jag. We're going to check in with Jason.
Well, Jay Meyer, I know you're happy to take out that nitro car, but you're going to the final of the Federal-Mogul All-Stars.
Well, that's great. We broke a rod a while ago and messed up the racetrack pretty bad. We got it fixed, and guys worked hard. And Sean's tough. I know that thing will run. He ran a 40 flat at Chicago, so I'm pretty worried about him.
We'll see who he takes on the final here.
Steve Federland, his wife Patty, a classic Federal Mogul sportsman racer story. Started in Super Gas, stepped up to Super Comp. In the unending need to want to go faster, he's found himself now in a Federal Mogul dragster.
No, that's exactly the way to do it, because you can start in the smaller classes for a little bit less money and go a little slower and move into this, and this is the ultimate.
Rick Santos and that Oakwood home team has won everything you can possibly win in Federal Mogul Dragster except the All-Stars. He is the only two-time Indy champ, U.S. National. He has won 3 consecutive Federal Mogul World Championships, but he's never won the All-Stars. This is the one jewel missing from Santos' crown.
Well, he's real close to trying to get himself into the final.
Federland got off the starting line. But that was the last thing that went right for Steve. How about Santos? 5:43 at 257 miles an hour. That's low ET of the event. Federland didn't make a bad run. 5:71 at 2:48, but he just wasn't even in the same frame with that Oakwood home start.
Well, and Rick ran a 5:47 in the first round, and was just as clean as this run right here, and just as straight.
Jack O'Bannon has put together quite a team with Norm Grimes as a crew chief. Jack and Norm actually used to race boats. They ran alcohol hydros in the liquid quarter mile, 220 mile an hour action in boats. When they decided to go Federal Mogul dragster racing on the asphalt, they got hooked up with the Santos family, and it has been an unstoppable combination. We'll be back to Columbus for the final round of the Federal Mogul All-Stars right after this. Welcome back to National Trail Raceway just outside Columbus, Ohio, the Federal Mogul All-Stars annual event. Alan Reinhardt and Jake Coughlin Sr. in the booth, Jason Baffery out in the field, and we are down to the finals. Basically, for the team competition, it's come down to 2. As you can see, Division 2 is leading the points at 1,000. Division 3 has 800 points. Now, Division 2 still has 4 cars left. They could get a possible 1,400. Division 3 with 3 cars left could get a possible 1,100. So we're going to decide not just the individual champions, but the overall team championship here in these final rounds. Super Street Cars sitting in the water box. Rudy Matthews trying to make it 4 wins in the last 5 years. And Dwight Limbaugh, one of those Division 2 cars. If Dwight wins this round, Division 2 could have no worse than a tie, while if Rudy wins as a blocker, he doesn't get points, but he'd keep Division 3 in the game. And Jake Coughlin, I guess there's no doubt who you're rooting for.
Oh, I tell you what, yeah, I'd like to see the Division 3s win. I think Jay Hollinger would be on my side at this particular time. I'd like to have that $20,000 to split up amongst all of them.
Jay Hollinger, the Division 3 director for the National Hot Rod Association. And as I mentioned, Rudy Matthews, the Camaro, is a Division 3 car, but he is the blocker. He cannot gain points, but if he stops Dwight Limbaugh, that helps his team. If Division 2 gets 200 or Division 3 loses 200 or any combination thereof, this baby's over.
Alan, here we go for the most prestigious sportsman racing in the country right here.
Oh, Rudy Matthews tattooed Dwight on the Christmas tree. He'll fall back a little bit, but Rudy tries to track him down top end. Matthews wins it. 5:03, 10.902 in sportsman speak. That is a 5,000ths package that he laid on Dwight Limbaugh. And Rudy Matthews wins it for the 4th time in 5 years, and he's keeping Division 3's hopes alive.
And Division 2 still needs 2 wins.
Division 2 does still need 2 wins. Rudy pulls off the racetrack. We've got super gas cars in the water box. Before we get to that, here's Jason with our first winner.
Rudy Matthews, you pick up another Super Street win in the Federal Mogul All-Stars and help out that Division 3 team once again.
It's unbelievable, man. I think my dad was along for that ride. I'm really thrilled.
That brings up Super Gas, and once again, we've got a blocker against a points earner. Jimmy Lewis, defending champ, is here as a blocker. That is Steve Cohen in his Corvette Roadster, earning points for Division 2.
I'd say Steve's wife, Joy, and the little girl, Shelby, they're standing watching right now. There goes Dad.
Only 8,000 separate the two on the starting line. And Steve Cohen wins it, 9.902. That's 100 points for Division 2. The worst they can do now is tie, and they are just 1 round away from an overall team championship. Jimmy Lewis runs a game, 991 at a $143. Cohen gets the win by just a few thousandths of a second, and the winner, as always, gets to talk to Jason.
Steve Cohen, what a win. You take out that former Federal Mogul champion and Jimmy Lewis, and You secured this thing for the team, for Division II.
That was the most important thing. I want to see Division II win this deal again. And to beat Jimmy, he looked like a shoo-in. He looked like he had the locks on this track, so it was definitely going to be a tough run. And I'm just glad we got the win. And like I said, I've never won this race before, so it's definitely nice to be able to do it.
Bill Holt, and you break that Division III streak. They've won this thing for the past several years. Now it's all you.
It's about time somebody beat those guys in Division III. We come up here to one of their home tracks, and it's time that they lose. I'm really proud of my guys. They've done a great job today. I knew I had a good team going in, but boy, they've done great.
Now it's Super Comp time. Sheldon Gecker, the big Hemi car. He gets set to take on Terry Cochran. Now, this will not have an implication on the points. Terry runs for Division 4. Sheldon runs for Division 5. There's still some shuffling around for 3rd and 4th place, but really the championship is the only important thing in the All-Stars race.
At this point in time, though, both of them are ready to win.
Sheldon is better off the starting line. The Hemi car will fall back a little bit. Now, here he comes. Stop in. And Shelley wins it. Are you ready for this? Dead on the dial, 8.908, and Crystal goes wild.
Crystal is excited.
Look at Shelley in the car. He knows the wind light's on top of the wall that the drivers can see. Pumping his fist, clapping his hands. Shelley had this one won at the starting line. 200ths of an advantage, and in Super Comp racing, 200ths is a bunch.
Yep. Starting line's a big factor in sportsman racing, that's for sure.
Sheldon Gecker wins it by that much, and here he is with Jason.
Sheldon Gecker, Federal-Mogul All-Star, your first one. You do it in fine style, 890 with an 8.
Pretty lucky, huh? I didn't look at all the numbers, but it was a pretty all this competition and this stuff is pretty tough here. It turns out to be a crapshoot, so you got to use a little trickery.
We'll be back with the Stock Eliminator final round right after this. Welcome back. It's time for the stock final round. That's Tom Russell, far side, small block 5-speed car, and Jeff Heffler out of Texas. Heffler is the blocker here in the Stock All-Stars. Tom Russell is running for Division 3. If Heffler wins, the championship's over. Red light start for Tom Russell. I tell you, the National Dragster odds pickers didn't give him much of a chance in this race, but he put on a great show today, making it all the way to the final round. He was 15 thousandths early in that final. Jeff Heffler wins it, 11:34. Heffler as a blocker again earns no points, but stopping Division 3, that crowns Division 2 as the overall Federal-Mogul All-Stars champions.
I'll tell you what, Division 2 did an outstanding job today. I mean, just watching them, perfection was just absolutely beautiful.
That's how close it was, just 15 thousandths of a second too early. And a tip of the cap to Tom Russell. He did a great job all day, got a little over anxious there in the final round, and Heffler wins yet another one. Let's go down to the far end of the racetrack. Once again, here's Jason.
Jeff Heffler wins the Federal-Mogul All-Stars in Stock Eliminator, takes out that Tom Russell, who National Dragster said was the long shot to win, but he went to the final. He had your name on a list.
Oh, he did have a list in there, and he was checking them off, but guess I didn't get checked off, so thank God.
You've got a lot of wins to your credit. How does this one stack up with the rest of them?
This one feels real good because I feel like the All-Stars was a true All-Stars this time. Everybody in there was really tough, and, you know, to have to run Lang and Edmund and then this guy, it's pretty good.
Now it's time for the Super Stock final round. Dan Fletcher, another blocker, trying to defend his championship, and Brian Butler, he's running for Division 3. The team championship is over, but the individual honors in this All-Star race are also a crown you get to wear all year.
Oh, it's fabulous. They'll have a dinner this evening, and everybody will be crowned. And the whole Butler family, I'm sure, is standing right there behind Brian.
Dan Fletcher in the Camaro. His father, Tom, bought that car brand new in 1968, drove it home, made it a race car, and it has not been on the street since. And Fletcher wins this one as Butler is 5 thousandths of a second early. Fletcher, for Summit Racing in Valvoline, wins his second consecutive Federal-Mogul All-Stars title. That's something he needs. He's had a tough season.
Oh, I tell you what. But to win right here in Columbus at the Summit race, I think that's just Pontiac Summit race. That's outstanding. And it's great for him, that's for sure.
Once again, you saw how close it was. Just 5 thousandths of a second. Butler left the starting line too soon, and Fletch is already celebrating as he heads down the racetrack. Jason now is with our latest winner.
How about that? Dan Fletcher picks up his second consecutive Federal-Mogul All-Stars win. Way to go.
Well, I'm just real ecstatic. I mean, with Summit Racing back in this event, I mean, timing's everything. It was great to get a first win in the Camaro and NHRA race this year. For Summit and Valvoline, I'm real happy. Wish my wife and kids were here. They decided with the impending weather to not come, but she told me to do my best, and I tried my best.
Now it's time for the competition eliminator final round. Larry Pritchett and Dave Northrup, the wacky Northrup family up in Pennsylvania, trying to add yet another feather to their family's racing cap. And that's a family that has accomplished an awful lot in the Federal Mogul sportsman ranks.
I'll tell you what, that's what sportsman racing is all about. It's really the family part of racing.
There you have Larry Pritchett, who finished number 3 in last year's Federal Mogul Championship chase, and Dave Northrup, who won the championship in his home division up in the northeast part of the country. Good green light start this time, and Northrup with a huge advantage on the Chrysler Street.
At this point, they can run them all the way out. They can't hurt on the index.
And Larry Pritchett has got enough race car to run him down. 8:16 at 163. Pritchett wins it in comp. And once again, here's Jason.
Larry, you were a little bit late off the starting line, but you still managed to pull off the win, and that's what matters here at the Federal Mogul All-Stars.
I was really comatose. I was 502 on Mano, and I was 630 on him. I was late, and I knew it, but the car made up a difference. I think, like I say, thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for the win.
We'll be back with Federal Mogul Funny Car and Federal Mogul Dragster to close out the All-Stars from Columbus right after this. Welcome back to Columbus, Ohio National Trail Raceway and the Federal Mogul All-Stars. We've got 2 finals left. This is Federal Mogul Funny Car. That's Mark White, the ride decal machine owned by George Etterman, running for Division 3. He hails out of Glendale Heights, Illinois, and his opponent, T-Bone, the man out of Manhasset, New York. And I'll say 3 things about Tony Bartone. He is a very sharp businessman. He is an exceptional race car driver, and he could quite possibly be the cheatingest golfer in the history of the game.
And I think for the 4th thing, he is excited about running this race. They waited all year to run this race.
Jake, we talked about it. We looked at the ladders before we even started eliminations. We got into the Federal Mogul All-Stars, and I think I speak for you. I definitely speak for myself. I was looking at it thinking, it's going to be Manzo, and it's going to be Austin.
That's right. That's what we both talked about. But here they are. Here's a group that White and Bartone, they are ready.
Bartone took out Frank Manzo in the semifinals. Mark White took out Pat Austin in that same semifinal. Now, the points championship is over. Division 2 has already clinched the crown for their team, but the individual honors and a big chunk of Federal Mogul cash is at stake right here.
I think it's so neat the way they stage and bring those motors up. Listen to that.
I just love these.
Oh, if I could do it again, I'd do it tomorrow.
Red light start, Mark White is over. Bartone with an exclamation point, 571, 247 miles an hour. Mark White, I think, just a little too geared up. He was 0.003 of a second early. Turned on the red bulb and ended his day at the Federal Mogul All-Stars. Let's go down to Jason Baffrey. He's with T-Bone.
Tony Bartone gets the Federal Mogul hat. The Federal Mogul All-Stars win. Your first one since 1996, the year you won the championship. That's got to be feeling pretty good.
Yeah! Feels great to win. Had a couple rough years here in Ohio. I think we went home real early last year. But a great win for the Roger Dean Quaker State Chevrolet GMAC team. And we can't party tonight. We still got a race tomorrow, so we're going to have to keep this going until tomorrow night. Hopefully we'll do good again tomorrow in the race.
That leaves us with the Federal Mogul Dragster Final. Jay Meyer, Rick Santos. 2 guys that not only worked a whole season to get here, but the guys that currently are number 1 and number 2 in the Federal Mogul World Points Chase. A big race.
And not only that, but Rick would just absolutely love to win this race. This is one of the only races I think he's not won in his lifetime.
You are correct. I was about to bring that up, that this is about the only thing Rick hasn't won. 3 Federal Mogul World Championships. He is the only driver in the history of the class to win the U.S. Nationals twice. But that guy, Jay Meyer, really wants a piece of it. Jay has had an exceptional start to the season on the Federal Mogul drag racing circuit with numerous wins. Picked up the win down in Gainesville. I believe this is the first time that they have raced face-to-face, and Meyer would love to send Rick Santos a message right here.
Well, I tell you what, and Rick's going to read it, that's for sure. Come on. This is the last race of the spring national
Federal-Mogul All-Star.
Great start.
Jay Meyer hangs in for a while, but the champ runs him down. 5:44. That car has been stunning. 5:47, 5:43, 5:44 in eliminations. Jay Meyer ran a game 5:56, his best lap of the weekend. But when you're throwing out numbers like that Oakwood Holmes team has done, they look right now unstoppable.
Oh, and as you watch the rerun in this, I mean, it's just beautiful. Right down the middle of the racetrack, perfect.
At the half-track point, 0.04 of a second advantage for Santos at that particular point on the racetrack, and then he just drives off into the sunset. Jay's car looked like it might have been hurting itself just a little bit, but he wasn't going to quit in the final round. Watching the far lane, we'll see a little bit of smoke out of that Jay Meyer ride as he heads down the racetrack. But when you get in the final round, you can't quit.
Yeah, right about at the 8th mile it started.
We'll watch it again from down at the end of the racetrack. Yep, you can see Jay's car was using itself up, but you just can't quit in the finals. Jason with our winner.
It is hard to believe, but this is Rick Santos's first Federal-Mogul All-Stars win. This is the one you've been looking for.
Yeah, you betcha. You know, this Oakwood Holmes team, they've been working really hard. We really like to thank Federal-Mogul for putting this on. This is really a great deal, and I'm really honored to win it.
I'd like to thank Jake Coughlin Sr. for sitting in with me and sharing his expertise on our Federal-Mogul All-Star Show, and Jason Baffrey, of course, for his exceptional work out in the field. Keep an eye on your local listings and catch our next show on the Federal-Mogul Drag Racing Series from St. Louis. This has been a production of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For more, log on to ESPN.com, part of the Go Network, go.com.